John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down! Come on. Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sacked lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, welcome back. It is the Eskridge Lexus post-game podcast. That's, as the season goes along, I struggle to figure out which podcast we're on, especially after difficult losses like today. Sooners lose it to Kansas State. We've been watching Kansas State here in the office. They lose it to Baylor. Josh, that's your fault. You said that this game reminded you almost exactly of the Kansas State game, and I said you're exactly right. So that's why I thought they played Kansas State for a minute. But no, they played Baylor. They lost 38-35. Dylan Gabriel throws 3 interceptions. The defense, you're going to have to forgive us because we're watching games here that are coming down to the wire.
We're closing out games here. Texas just holds on to win in Manhattan, 34-27.
Not that it matters because OU's completely out of any scenario that you could dream up to make it into the Big 12 championship.
They are? What? Already? What happened?
Well, we're happy to have Josh McQuistion joining us. It's an honor when we get one of the biggies to join us on the lowly Eskridge Lexus postgame pod. So welcome in, Josh.
You know, I thought when you dropped my name about a minute ago, I was like, if I just sat here in silence, they're going to think Carey is bombed and has no idea who he's actually talking to, and Josh is not actually a part of the podcast. But yeah, I'm here. Mixed emotions here. Watching the Astros up 3-1 in the 6th, feeling pretty good about that. But at the same time, don't want to walk on OU fans' graves. That's a tough one today. Guys, like you said, Carey, I mean, it just felt like every time OU had a chance to get control of that game or just take the lead in that game, they just found a way to just kill themselves.
Is that not the story of the season, though? I mean, every single time that it feels like this thing is moving in the right direction, they just find a way to – I want to say a different word, but I'm not going to do it.
I'm here to tell you it is moving in the right direction.
Oh,
and
no.
this is not like sunshine and rainbows, but there was Kansas State, and then there was TCU and Texas, and now we're back to Kansas State bad. Yeah. Like, it got a lot worse after Kansas State. It got better today, but it's still not good enough. I mean, look. This is how I feel about OU's football. This is my manifesto. This is my State of the Union address.
Josh, he's on this. He hit me with it when I walked in over here today.
So
I'm ready.
And to me, this is so much more this season about wins and losses and bowl games. And look, I'm on the record as saying the goal of this season is to not lose recruits. Like, that's still goal number 1. But so winning your last 3 games. I wouldn't give up on that if I'm an OU fan. I still think that you want to win all the games the rest of the way. But here it is. Brent Venables has taken over a team. It's not about the roster completely. It is about the defensive line. But it's not about the roster completely. This is about Brent Venables taking over a program with a defense that's been allowed to slip into, oh my God, Alabama with
Bryce
a touchdown.
Young, just unbelievable scramble play to give Alabama back on top with 4 minutes left.
This is not about what this is about is, I'm not drunk, I swear. It is the only one drinking. Brent Venables has inherited a program where the defense over 10-plus years now has gotten so used to just doing enough to win games because they've had historically successful offenses and players like Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts and offensive lines that have all been drafted in the NFL. Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown, Sterling Shepard. I mean, just keep going down the list. Some of the best players in the NFL were on these offenses. This defense, everybody that's played in this defense is used to being carried by the offense. They've never had to have a culture that is we're going to go out there and dominate this game, regardless of what our offense does. And no one has ever – they've never demanded that mindset from this team. They've just tried to make it better. It's just like last year. With, I mentioned, I think last week on the pod, when the first football playoff rankings came out last year, OU was 8-0, and they were like 9th or something in the rankings.
Yeah.
Because no one was impressed with the way they were winning. And we all said there's a problem with this team, and Lincoln Riley was get pissed off at us in press conferences and, limit our media access because he just felt like there was too much negativity. Like, the fans aren't stupid. They can see what's going on. We're not stupid. We can see what's going on. And Brent Venables is in charge of a team defensively that is the most mentally fragile unit on a major in a major football program that exists. There's no defense at Notre Dame, Alabama. Put Clemson in there. Put anyone that's not even those. Penn State. Let's go Michigan. Like, this is the most emotionally fragile program that exists in a major traditional power. Like, it's fallen so far. Like Brett loves to say, the standard is the standard. The standard here is just do enough to let the offense win. And I feel like that's his biggest challenge, and that's the thing that I've noticed about this team. You mentioned the Eric Bailey tweet, Eddie, when we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
The 4th and 1. At that point in the game,
4th and 1, they go for it on the
29-yard line.
It's nothing new for Dave Aranda. He does that. They should have been there, and coming out of a timeout too, where you burn a timeout.
But if you get the stop there, you have the ball on your own 29-yard line.
Yeah.
Like, you're at least going to tie the game with a field goal at that point. And so they get the first down, and the amount of gashing plays that they had directly after that, they showed no resistance. That defense crumbled.
Yeah, it's an 11-play touchdown drive, 8-yard run. This is after the 4th and 1 pickup at their own 29. 8-yard run, 6-yard run, 15-yard pass. And after the 15-yard pass, it kind of felt like everybody in the stadium was deflated. You were across the 50-yard line. 10-yard run, 12-yard run, 8-yard run, 10-yard run for a touchdown. And they're back up by 10.
And and the funny thing about it is you can talk about the defense all day, but if Dylan Gabriel doesn't throw 3 interceptions, that's 10 points that Baylor doesn't score.
Yeah. And,
they scored 10 points off of turnovers today.
The tip balls.
In a 3-point game.
The tip balls is one thing, Josh. It didn't seem like his third one was his fault. You said that he threw it behind him.
Yes.
But the first two, it's just they're tip balls. Like, what? I don't know.
I don't know what Braden Willis was doing by just batting a ball straight up in the air in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I keep going back to this idea that every time that we think that this thing is headed in the right direction, they find new ways to screw themselves. Going back to the first half even, where
they don't know how to close. They don't know. Yeah. They don't have a killer instinct. I mean, put whatever adjective or
but it's
or phrase
everybody,
you
and
want
it's
on
not
it.
just the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, but I mean, just specific, like, the only player that I feel like the last few weeks where I'm just like, damn, he's starting to get it is Deshaun White. That's the only one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he has 3 games left in his career.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think Billy Bowman being back today was a big lift, and he had an interception.
Sure.
But you still see weird stuff from Key Lawrence. You see, I mean, like everybody else on that roster. I mean, David Igwebu didn't have a great game, but then when you put, like Brent said, when you put a true freshman in there, that's when they went right down the field, was when Kanik was in the game.
Yeah. And it just – they have a lot of – I don't know if it's missing pieces, Josh, but it's not there. Like, this thing is what it is. I think that there's a little bit of apathy within the fan base right now, just kind of where you throw your hands up in the air and you go, well, I mean, this season was already lost, and today was just no surprise. It wasn't a surprise to anybody.
The thing – kind of comparing the K-State game a little bit, if nothing else, what I think we've seen the last 2 weeks, Oklahoma's pass defense is becoming solid. It's good. It's good enough. Blake Shapen threw for 132 yards or something today. Yes.
People are running the ball because they can't throw it. That's what happened with Iowa State.
Yeah.
Actually, they tried to throw it 57 times.
Yeah. And people look at Baylor's yards per game, and it's one of the lower ones in the Big 12. It is. But you also look, they've got one of the better QBRs in the league, at like 151. It's fourth in the league. It's ahead of Oklahoma. And he was at 100 today. Like, in spite of all of Gabriel's problems, he was actually better from a QBR perspective by some measure than Chapin was. So I like, again, and I realize that's kind of silver linings and people don't want to hear that stuff. I talked all week, and I know I certainly wasn't the only one. If you can't stop the run against Baylor, you're not going to beat Baylor. Like, like, you knew they weren't going to dominate, but I thought the first half, their run defense was good enough to win that game. They got put in some shitty spots, and they were okay. The second half, Baylor just nickeled and dimed them to death. Just 5 yards, 7 yards, 9 yards. Like, it wasn't the big pops. It was just death by 1,000 cuts. And that's kind of what it felt like that whole second half to me, is they just couldn't get off the field when they needed to. And guys, to me, I mean, like, I know there's been a lot of chicken or the egg. Like, is it coaching? Is it talent? I don't think there's any position that it's more clear that there's a talent deficiency than along that defensive line. Yeah. They have no difference makers up front, just none.
And Ethan Downs has been a disappointment. Reggie Grimes has been a disappointment. And there isn't really anybody. I mean, Marcus Stripling hasn't done anything. It's like Lualu was a captain today based on the fact probably that he's the only one that did shit recently. And I mean, but at the same time, we can talk about, pass rush. The linebackers are sometimes they're doing their job, other times they're not even there.
It's amazing to me, and especially from being down on the field where you can kind of see things open up behind the offensive line. Sometimes they're right there, fitting gaps, awesome.
Trucking people.
Trucking, like, looking really, really good. There's moments where everything comes together, and then there are moments where a guy breaks through the line, and there's just nobody. It's hard to explain. Like, there is nobody within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And you just wonder, like, how does this continue to happen?
Guys, Carey, you mentioned say his name. I can never get it right.
Lualu.
Jonah. Yeah. You talked about him, and I thought he clearly was Oklahoma's best defensive lineman against Iowa State.
Yeah.
He gets named a captain. He doesn't start. Like, I don't know, like, that I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe he started last week because Grimes wasn't quite full speed or whatever it was, but, like, in a world where this is a meritocracy, like, why did he not start? Like, why? I mean, and I realize he played, and that's fine. Like, I get it all. But I don't know. Like, it's stuff like that where you're like, I feel like there's some element of, like, you just keep trying to shove a square peg into a round hole when Oklahoma's defensive ends are just they're not there. Like, I don't know why they keep trying to be forced to be something they're not.
Yeah, and that's something that I mentioned to Carey earlier. It's like, you knew you were going to have to come in and be able to stop the run. And they just it's almost like they're banging their head into a wall saying, we're going to continue doing this and try to build the foundation for the future, when it's like, well, it'd be nice to try to win this game. I know you're trying to build a future and you're trying to build a foundation, but, man, at some point, goddamn, you got to be able to stop the run.
That was like a hiccup there for me. It's just I think what everybody looks at, the fans look at, just the inconsistency. Like, how can you do it for so many plays, and then you have that drive, 11-yard drive or whatever, 11-play drive where every play is over like 8 yards? And
it seemingly feels like there's no resistance. Like, there is no – there are moments during a game where you feel like, okay, things are starting to come together. They're going to be able to get off the field. Crowd's getting loud. They're into it. And then there are other moments where it's just like, this is PTSD back to where they were, like back to square one. They're not going to be able to do shit.
See, like what I'm seeing right now, LSU is just like, F you, we're going to go score.
Yeah. And OU has moments like that, and then they have
not with 4 minutes left in the game.
Well, no, but then again, they did go down and score
2 minutes left.
5 minutes left. Yeah. I mean, we can get to that here in a second, but like even the drive right before half, you have a chance to tie the game up or take the lead, and you have a penalty that knocks you out of field goal range.
Well, here's the play that represents everything that's wrong with
or an easier field goal.
With OU's defense is they have to stop Baylor from getting a first down or the game is over, and the running back goes for 47 or whatever it was and takes a knee on his own because he knows scoring is not what we want right here. We want to run out the clock. Like, that exemplifies everything that is shattered with the mentality of this defense. Like, that's one play you have to make, or the game is over. It's done, and it was. You lost the game knowing that if they got a first down here and there was no resistance, not that there was no resistance, they got killed. Like, they blocked everyone.
Here's the other thing, and this can kind of get into the offense and the other, just the other flip of this. Everybody that's coming after the quarterback and Dylan Gabriel, I know he turned the ball over. He was far from elite. But isn't that kind of a synopsis of just like what is wrong with everything that everybody goes, well, they don't have an elite quarterback. That's the problem.
The problem.
When they gave up, I'm looking
I'm
it
glad
up.
you brought this up. I'm glad you brought this up. That is my thing right now. The fan base, you have to adjust the way you look at OU football because you're doing all the things that let the defense off the hook for years and years, which is you cannot look at Oklahoma football as we have to be the best offense in the country and we have to have the number one draft pick at quarterback because it's never going to build the type of program that Alabama has, that a team that's literally going to have a shot at winning a college football playoff. You might be better off as an OU fan just hoping that OU remains average to better than average on offense, so it will shine a light on this defense and all the players in it that says you guys aren't good enough to win a championship of any kind. Because at this point, I almost think that's the only way that's going to change the culture at OU because these guys, they're not changing. They're not doing the things that have to be done in order to get better on defense. It's a culture. It's ingrained. It's set in. It's burned into who they are as football players.
Guys, do you remember before last season, we kind of had a conversation about whether a guy like Pat Fields could be a starter on a national championship team? Look at that defense now. There is one guy that I feel is capable of playing on that level of defense. And it's Billy Bowman. There's one guy. And last year,
mean
I
in the
thought there were a
secondary,
few.
the safety?
I mean anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deshaun White's playing better than anybody has in 3 years.
Deshaun White's playing. No, you're right. I guess I'm talking about more can get to that level.
Yeah.
I don't know if Deshaun White's ever of that level, but he's absolutely playing good football right now. That's a conversation we could have. I just don't know that he has that elite high end. He can go to a different place. I think Billy Bowman, if he wasn't cleaning up so many messes, could be an even better player. But he almost plays like a sweeper in soccer. Like, oh, I'll fix that. I'll fix this. Like it's really good if you can recognize what he's doing. But
like we said, Jaden Davis is playing better this year, and he did get hurt today and didn't come back in the game. But they missed his run stopping ability as a corner today. Stuff on the outside. And the thing that's frustrating is you see some guy like Jaden Davis. Eddie, we know this. We talked to the kid. He's one of the most thoughtful people on this team.
Extremely bright.
Very bright kid. Like, he cares, and he cares about his teammates. Like, he wants to be good. He doesn't want to suck. He's not here just to screw around.
Same with Woody Washington.
Woody Washington, too. I don't know if Key Lawrence is that guy. I don't know that he has the ability to look down deep and say, you know what I'm doing isn't good enough. Being inconsistent week in and week out is not good enough. Like, how many of these guys are coachable? How many listen to their coaches? I bet Brent Venables knows the answer to that. But, like, you do see some guys, Josh, I think, that can contribute to winning football. And I think Danny Stutzman cares. I think that David Agwebu cares.
I think all those guys care. There's a matter of there is a difference though between caring and just not being able to do it.
Well, caring and giving enough effort to where you're consistent all the time.
Sure. And we talked about this. Jalen Rebin's a perfect example. He cares. He's busting his ass, but at some point, how much he's almost at a disservice or a disadvantage because he's not playing in the right position.
Basically a nose tackle.
Because they have to.
Yeah. He's the one getting screwed over because they don't have anybody else.
Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. And again, Carey, my point was more to like what you're talking about, where the standard is the standard. Like,
Yeah.
there are guys that are good football players, and I mean they're playing good football now. But like to get to the place where you can win titles without Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray as your quarterback, there's one guy that can make that kind of difference, and you need 8 or 9 of them. Bama's got 11 of them. Georgia's got.
Bama's
look what
got
Georgia did
22
in
of
Tennessee today. Yeah, Georgia just played games with that Tennessee offense that nobody else could figure out what to do with.
No, you're not wrong, but I'm just.
And they're starting friggin' Stetson Bennett.
And it's
I'd
obvious.
take Dylan Gabriel over Stetson Bennett.
It is about the talent to some degree. I said that at the very beginning. And the defensive line, it definitely is about that. It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And when's it going to get better? Like, there's nothing. I know that they still have a top 5 class and they have guys coming in, and, we'll see if anything happens in that regard, but it just doesn't seem like there's anything on the horizon that would make you feel better about the defensive line play.
No.
And not that there should be.
Unless you're going up against a shittier team.
Yeah, like not that there should be, but at the same time, it's like how many years now has OU showed up, and there are games where they just get physically manhandled at times.
By the way, you know who was in the office tonight? A guy they could really use.
Yeah, they could use Isaiah Thomas. But
Thomas stopped by.
He's doing well, and he's making plays on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, he's sacking quarterbacks in the NFL.
That's a perfect example of, probably something, and we've talked about this before, just.
By the way, Nick Benito also had his breakout game this week.
And those are guys that obviously would be helping, but then you look at what they have right now, and it's just not good enough. I like Jordan Kelly. We heard about Jordan Kelly being a great, he was going to have this great
Isaiah
offseason.
Coe, you pointed it out in the preseason, was playing with a broken thumb.
Oh, in the pregame? Well, and here's the other thing. It's like Isaiah Coe ended up playing with a broken thumb today, but he has one of the biggest mental errors of the entire day.
Yeah.
Like that's the most surprising thing to me is how undisciplined this thing is on November 5th. Like they keep making just bullshit penalties. I don't know, Josh. It's frustrating to watch.
Well, I wanted to say, I want to get Carey's opinion on that. The co-penalty. Did you think that was just bad luck, Carey? Like it felt like he was falling and just reached and then just happened to get the mask. Like it didn't look intentional from the one. I only saw one angle of it, so I'm not going to say like I had a definitive look at it. But I just saw the one angle, and it was kind of off the corner, and it looked like the Baylor lineman was just pushing him, and he kind of knew the play was ending, and it looked like he was trying to regain his balance, and he just. It didn't look nasty. Like it didn't look like a guy.
I thought it looked like it looked like a guy that was just playing past the whistle. Yeah, and it just looked so bad because he led with his helmet into the pile, and he just happened to land right on top of the player he was going after.
It wasn't a play that.
Wait, which play are we? Wait. What are we talking about? I'm talking about the one where Coe took the guy's helmet off.
Yeah, he got called for the penalty.
But we're also talking about the guy that got kicked out of the game for Baylor, right?
No, that was on defense.
Okay,
that was on defense. That was on a play that OU scored
Coe would have
on.
been on the field then. Yeah.
Coe.
Yeah.
He basically. You're right, Josh. He got locked in, but it was so far after the play. You have to have some type of.
That's fair.
Like you just have to know where the play is. Like it was 2 to 3 seconds after the ball carrier, after was it Danny or Awegbu made the play, like disengage. It's 4th down. You've made the stop. Get off the field.
Yep.
Go celebrate with your teammates, and you're getting into this bullshit over on the in the middle of the field, right in front of everybody. Like that was one of those turning points in the game where. You get off the field, they're probably going to have to kick a field goal because it was 4th and 8 inside the 10.
Yeah, and it's also like, Andrew Rame had he had a hold and a face mask on the same play.
Yeah, like right before halftime where, Schmidt, for the way that he's kicked the ball right now, that's a chip shot for him. And as it turns out, you're kicking a 55-yarder. He had enough leg, he just missed it. You can't fall back on making a 55-yarder to try to tie the game at halftime, though.
Yeah, he had the distance.
I'm never blaming a kicker for missing 55. Like that's
No.
just a, that's
But
a
he's
ball.
kicking a 55 because of a hands to the face penalty on an OU center.
Oh, no. Like, I'm just saying I don't put that on Schmidt. Like, hey, man, you miss like 55,
Yeah.
you hit it, that's just bonus.
But in like
you
the
lose the game by 3 because it went back 15
Ugh.
yards.
and in the grand
Yep.
scheme of things, that's the type of shit that will get you beat against a good football team. Turning the ball over will get you beat against a good football team. Not being able to stop the run gets you beat by a good football. Like, they did everything that you possibly could to put your team at a disadvantage.
Guys, I said it in the report card after the game. I don't know what to focus on because as many mistakes as they made, it's pretty damn impressive they were in the game. Like you're but at the same time, I'm like, but you still screwed the pooch. Like, you played terrible and made so many mental errors and you screwed yourself time and time again. But man, you needed a 4th down stop to get the ball back and give your offense a chance. Like, I don't know where you look on that kind of deal. Like, what you put 530 yards on a Baylor defense that has given OU fits the last couple years.
That's the thing. I think that's the thing that eats at people the most is the fact that you did give yourself a chance to win the game as much as it's kind of like the Kansas State game in the fact that you didn't give up a 3rd and 16 this time, but you just and Ted Roof, he opened with it after the game, and I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear it, but they put themselves in a position to get off the field, and we're 9 weeks into this thing. They just can't. They can't get off the field in big moments, and that kind of goes to what Carey says, just as far as it's almost like they don't have a backbone right now. Like, they just are waiting for it to happen instead of
They're
anticipating.
waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah,
And then when it does, they crater.
So I'm just looking at the stats here. I hadn't looked at some of the final stats. Baylor started off the game 1 for 6 on 3rd down. They ended 4 for 13, which means they went 3 for their last 7. And it just, OU was stopping them on 3rd down until they weren't.
The
and
problem
then
is they're 3 of 3 on 4th downs.
And the first 3rd down that I want to say there in the 4th quarter, that was a 3rd and 8, correct?
Say that again.
Was the first 4th down that they had a chance to get off the field with after they cut it to 3 with 4 minutes left? That was a 3rd and 8, I believe. I have it pulled
Yeah, that
up.
was a pass. It was,
and they picked up 14,
yeah,
right?
Right.
And it's just like
And the guy was wide open.
You've done it was Woody Washington, I think that was over late. Woody or Billy, I can't remember. You've done everything perfect to that point. You have a chance. You have 2 timeouts left even at that moment to get the ball back to your offense, and you can't get off the field. You give up a 14-yard play, and
it goes back to the Adrian Martinez. What was it, 3rd and 15 or 16 or whatever?
16.
And he gets 51 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's just like there are certain elements where it feels like they're close. They do so much well, but that like little 10% that is out there that they do bad, it's so bad that they can't rebound from it.
It's self-destructive. It's self-destructive behavior.
Yeah. And go ahead.
To me, and just, to kind of continue, every time they make a mistake, they pay for it. Like, they don't ever get away with a mental error. And I don't know if that was just we got used to Oklahoma's quarterbacks bailing them out time and time again or what it was. But every time you're like, that's going to hurt them. You know it. Like, you just know it. It's going to kill them in a play or two. And, like that. So I think Curtis Fitzpatrick put up something, was like, what are the odds that OU gets out on, gets the ball back here? And I was like, 3 and outs, 15%. Anything past that, 0%. Once Baylor got that first down, that game was over.
Yeah.
Because you just knew they were not going to recover.
And that's the thing. That's why I've said it's the culture, because we've seen this time and time again this year. And I don't know how you fix that other than you just have to keep coaching them and hoping they start making some of those plays when they need to. But it's not going to happen against Baylor. They're just they have too many. They've been too good on the offensive and defensive lines for years now. But still, like, Oklahoma still runs the ball really well with Eric Gray.
Where would this offense be without Eric Gray? Like that's a serious statement. I mean, he does everything for them. Even
they might have to make
passes
Jalil
out.
Farouk a starting running back.
And then you go to the 4th and 1. It's like, I understand that, like, you can't play Eric Gray, you can't give him the ball literally every time, but that seemed like a pretty important play. Why not give the ball to Braden Willis?
But here's the thing: I think it was Conjal that got beat on the block that allowed them to stuff it.
It was almost like he just fell down, though.
Yeah,
like Marcus Major. I don't know. I think I'm almost done. I know it's unfair because he's been banged up, and Javonte Barnes was there today. He went through pregame, but they got to get somebody else back there and there are moments where he runs the ball well. Like he ran the ball well there in the north end zone.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's almost kind of mind-blowing just how bad that thing looks at times.
Yeah.
Then they tried to, they hit Mims early, and you're like, okay, you're going to get him involved. And then it just like, where was he the rest of the day? He had a couple catches, but what did he end up with?
He was targeted 4 times on the day. Or no, he had 4 catches for 120 yards.
And 60, 70 of that was on one play.
5 targets.
5 targets, 4 catches.
I don't know.
I don't know how guys, to me, if Jalil Farouk, Marvin Mims, and Braden Willis aren't getting almost 20 targets a game combined, you're doing something wrong.
I'm almost ready to throw somebody else in the mix here. Tell me what's so bad about making Drake Stoops a bigger part of the offense.
Catches the ball. He does something good every time he touches the ball.
That touchdown run he had. I mean, if you get him the ball inside the 10-yard line, he wills his way into the end zone.
And the thing about it is, though, it's like, and we've already said this, they almost had 500-something yards of offense today. It's like they scored 35 points.
That's as close as you can get, yeah.
It's not – I don't walk out of there thinking, yeah, that was the offense's problem.
I mean, that's just what you do after a game. You pick apart every little thing that cost you when no one thing ever cost you a game. I mean, coaches say that all the time, but it's true. Like that the rain penalty didn't cost them the game because that ended up in a missed field goal.
It didn't, but it's all part of
but
the
it's part
process.
Of the, yeah, it's part of
game.
It's all these things that you do that are stupid that at the end of the day you're like, if we didn't have those, we would have won the game.
Yeah, and they were able to force a couple turnovers, but then you don't do anything.
If you don't throw 3 interceptions, you win that game today.
Yeah, or at least have an opportunity to kind of pull away.
If you just throw 2 of them, you probably win the game today.
Would they get 10 points off
10
the
points
3
off
turnovers?
Yeah.
And then the third one crushed that drive late in the first half. Like would have.
Yeah. That was a
you
good
look like they
drive.
were moving in the right direction. Yep, exactly. And you don't know what'll happen, but I mean, that was the one time all game where it felt like, oh, Oklahoma's getting some momentum here, and then they just threw that pick, and it looked like it all. Again, I didn't feel like in the first half, I didn't feel the defense was great in the first half, but they were good enough to win in the first half, and there's that crushing play. You could have felt like you lost the momentum. Defense gives them the ball right back. And I mean, they've got a chance, and I get it. Now, guys, somebody brought up to me, and it's a good point in a way. So you guys remember the USC-Utah game where there's the whole Caleb Williams scramble, and then the Pac-12 refs basically find a way to give USC like 10 extra seconds back on the clock to run a few plays at the end of the game there. Well, that Dylan Gabriel scramble that gets called back on the Andrew Raym thing, it's the same principle. Like by the way, by what the Pac-12 had established, they should have put time back on the clock.
I think it went down to like 5 seconds, and the play started. It was like 16 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, now, again, it's the wrong call in the Pac-12, but if I'm Brent Venables, I'm like, I saw what happened out there. Do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just This is what we do after losses.
We're
you know.
back.
Yeah.
We're back. This thing's back. It's like I said though, it's one of those things that it feels like this has happened so many times over, especially this year, that I don't think that anybody was necessarily surprised how that unfolded.
But here's the thing. It's about the rest of the season. It's about how Brent Venables has to find out a way to attack this, because it is a it's one of those situations that it's a cancer in the program. They've got to figure out how to get these guys to take the next step. Yeah. Because it's like you just mentioned, it's not just defense. Offense doesn't execute in crunch time either. Yeah. I mean, the defense came out with what? Baylor scored on their first drive, and then it was 2 straight stops? I think maybe the offense scored on one of those.
Out of the first half? Or, I mean, the second
coming
half?
out of the second half. Let me go to the drive.
They took, yes.
Okay, so, no. Yes. Baylor, third drive, 15 minutes to go. They got it on the kickoff. They scored a touchdown. It took them. It was 9 plays, 75 yards, 404.
Because that was the drive with the
and then
face mask.
They punted twice. Then they went 3 and out and 4 and out, and they punted. And OU scored a TD. OU scored a touchdown after that second one, but then Baylor came right back and scored a touchdown. And then OU got the ball back and they punted, and OU was the last team to score a touchdown.
And obviously Baylor could have scored again.
Yeah.
For the OU fans out there that do want to take a walk down memory lane, SMU is currently beating Houston 77-63.
Yeah, Tanner Mordecai had 7 touchdown passes in the first half.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like the
had
drive
6.
chart was TD. There was no stop.
He had 6 in the second quarter, I believe.
That is unbelievable.
And see, that's the kind of football that you shouldn't want to watch if you're an OU fan anymore. Those days should be over until this defense is fixed.
I'm at the point now where it's like I don't know if it can be fixed. I don't know if it can ever be fixed.
I think Brent Venables can fix it.
Obviously. New players, they have to get in, better players, obviously.
But can you fix it in year one? No.
But there's going to be a lot of people like these dumb motherfuckers that I see on Twitter that it's like, well, Brent Venables, he's saying he's a great defensive coach. What this dumb say to me? I just had to see it.
Eddie
to
just
believe
got
it.
a fresh beer, so he's into it.
Brandon Henderson, you get your name on the podcast, you dumb Venables being a defensive genius might be the overstatement of the century, but I'm sure he'll say the right things in the presser about how we'll learn and grow. Do you not get it? Do you people not get it? What else? I'm just at the end. I'm kind of like you talking about, some of the stuff you see like during the games. I'm glad that I don't have reception down on the field, because like the overreaction and just like the wanting to make grand statements about how
it's just tantrums. People are throwing tantrums,
and I know it makes them feel better, but it just I don't know.
Keep me out of your mentions while you're throwing your tantrum.
The whole thing is it's not good. Nobody's saying it's good. It's like this other person. We understand that DG is the best we have, but that is unacceptable. We need an elite quarterback, not an average quarterback. You spoiled motherfuckers. Do you not realize how good the quarterback's play's been over the last 3, 4, 5 years? You're just
some
spoiled.
of the best in the history of college football for one program.
Spoiled.
It's not the best.
That's why I keep going back to when we were doing the pods during the 17, 18, 19 years. It's this isn't normal. It's not normal.
A lot.
There's nothing about what they're doing is normal. Baylor averaged
South Carolina dying for a quarterback that OU fans rejected.
Yeah. Baylor averaged 5.9 yards a carry, and people are obsessed with the quarterback play. They were getting 6 yards a carry when they wanted, whenever they wanted.
I'm trying to find some of the worst mentions during the game today for you. to make you feel better that you're not the only one.
I mean, it's just funny to me that like people want to have these excuses like, well, it's the quarterback's fault. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying,
The rabbit
Carey.
hole that people go down, like to find criticisms.
I do
it's
that,
amazing.
though, with the Thunder, and I do that with the Cubs. Like, I want to throw it at somebody to make me feel better. And I blame Tom Ricketts, even though it is a lot his fault.
See, some of these are just trolls, but like when you start going down this rabbit hole to vent, BV came in, looked around, and said, I can work with what we got. We don't need to turn over this roster, and I don't need to use the transfer portal to upgrade and win now.
I mean,
like 40% of that roster is new. What the are you talking about?
now you're just like making excuses that like, and I think there's a lot of people that, tweet and send us stuff during games and after games. They don't care. Like they just want OU to win 50-0 so they can go into work on Monday and be able to brag about it.
Hey, and you know what, OU fans? If your guy next to you in the cubicle next to you is an OSU fan, you can still talk shit. He had a worse weekend than you did.
Sure. Or just get a gun and kill him.
We're going just falling down here.
I'm kidding.
Eddie, I know you don't
I'm
know that
kidding.
reference, but
I'm kidding.
Yeah, we're going full Michael Douglas.
I think
Okay.
you're gonna get us banned for hate speech. Here's like it's not all bad. Like here's one person that actually has a sane take on things. I kind of appreciate seeing it. Says this was a much better loss than the first three. Fellow Sooner fans, if you're not willing to be realistic, then you're in for continued misery.
I think that there is a conversation, though, to be had that when you're talking about what was realistic this year, and even after the losses, like coming over here the last couple weeks, like what was realistic. And again, today you go back to, even these points that we're talking about and not being able to get off the field in third down and that kind of stuff. And that's what's frustrating. Like, they should be able to find ways to get off the field, and they just can't.
Jeff says, after watching the Pansies and Palace, flipped over to Georgia versus Tennessee so I can watch elite players and coaches.
Well, no shit. That was 1 versus 2, bud. Like,
Guys,
so you
breaking
flipped
news,
from a
OU's not
5
top 5 team this year.
Yeah, you flipped from a 5-3 team that's now 5-4 and struggling to get to a bowl game.
That's the problem. Look, be realistic. Like, I don't want to turn into making excuses for anybody, but realism is not. It was never that this team was going to be raise their way to number one in the rankings.
But there's a difference between realism and kind of embarrassing the university, isn't there?
Yeah.
Hey, I got bored of watching a slow pitch softball game today, and so I came and watched the Astros, and it was better. Like they're just a better team than those slow pitch softball teams, so it's very exciting. But no, guys, they're like. I think people are struggling to deal with where this team is and where they wanted them to be. They're just not the team you wanted them to be. Like, you've got to embrace that, accept it. But there is improvement being made on this team. Like, I legitimately believe that. The offense, if it can ever just stop shooting itself in the foot, is playing very efficient and very good football. Like, they're running the ball consistently. They're throwing the ball pretty well. Hell, Dylan Gabriel and Marvin Mims connected on a deep ball today. I don't know what else you can say. I mean, that's progress all by itself. And then
that's not good.
Defensively, the pass defense is better. They are making tackles. They're closing space. It's not perfect. I'm not telling you it's an elite group. But, guys, I would say over the last 2 weeks, that's as good a pass defense as we've seen Oklahoma play in years.
Yeah, I mean it's competent. Like at times it's competent, and it doesn't look like they're just kind of, they get a few bad throws that get the other team off the field.
Absolutely, it's not like they are making tackles in space and forcing 3rd and 5 instead of looking at 1st and 10.
Right. I agree, but at the same time, everybody's got to be honest with themselves about what this team really is, and where it's lacking, and not just in talent. Are they going for 2?
Looks like they're going for 2.
LSU
going for the win.
Go for the win. But lacking in talent and lacking in just straight out being a fucking baller. I mean, they just have very few of those guys.
Yeah. And I think that that's the most frustrating thing is that, you know, they were able to get away with it for so long that now you look up and, you know, shit kind of hits the fan per se, and they just don't have those guys. And, you know, it's frustrating to watch. There's no doubt about that. They just, and, you know, especially for, you know, people that have been watching this thing for a long time, it's like Baylor's just a better football team right now. Even though you walk out of there feeling like, you know, to a certain extent that OU probably should have won the game. Like, if you don't turn the ball over, if you don't make mistakes, if you don't have penalties. But that's all part of being a disciplined football team, and they just aren't. And I think that's the most frustrating thing, Josh, is that, like, everybody thought when Brent came in, because they preached discipline, they taught, you know, he said it after the game. We've been talking about this shit for, he didn't say shit, but we've been talking about this for 11 months about being a disciplined football team, and they just don't get it.
I mean, I think, guys, and we've kind of alluded to this, you're reprogramming a bunch of guys that have been taught to accept, you know, oh, we can let that slide. We can let this slide. That's okay. Like, because this guy is going to take care of it. And I think you still see that because, guys, like you said, Baylor is a more complete team than Oklahoma. Do they have the same level of guys? Like, do they have an Anton Harrison? No. Do they have a Marvin Mims? No. I don't think they're better at quarterback than Oklahoma is. I don't think they've got a defensive back that's as good as Billy Bowman. Like, I think Oklahoma's high points are better, but they are not as consistent from beginning to end as Baylor is. Baylor doesn't have a glaring weakness. They don't have a bunch of, you know, shining strengths either.
LSU wins.
But yeah, I was just looking at that. I missed the whole play. But like I said, I mean, you've got to be real about what this team is. I think, like somebody on the board was like, I was thinking 9-3 last week, and now I'm back to 5-6. I don't know if there's going to be a rain delay or a rain out or something. But guys, I still think 8-4 is entirely possible for this football team. Like, that didn't change for me today. If they will, I mean, today was Dylan Gabriel had more interceptions than I think any day in his career. Like, that's not going to replicate itself.
Yeah, and the other thing, like, one of the most frustrating parts about the game today was fans were upset that it took them so long to score. It took them 4 minutes to score. And I was like, what do you want? Like,
I was one of those people that was like, they do know they're down by 10 with 6 minutes left, right? It didn't seem like there was any sense of urgency, I guess is what I'm saying in the fourth quarter.
The problem was the thing that was working was running the ball, and that wasn't going to be a quick score.
And as it turned out, they played it perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have got the ball back with 3.5 minutes
if they
left.
would have got the 4th and 1 stop.
Sure. No.
Yep.
Well, third
down stop.
Third and 8.
Yeah.
Before the 14-yard throw.
Yep.
Like, you're going to get the ball back in, like, almost
You're right,
too much time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Down by 3.
So the time management was not a problem to me.
No, but I just, like, I think as, you know, you get the ball back with, like, 9 minutes left, and then they start moving the ball, and they're running the ball, and you look up, and all of a sudden, you know, there's 5.5 minutes left, and you're like, oh, shit, they're down by 10 with 5.5 minutes left. Like, there is no sense of urgency out there. But it ended up working out. So, like,
look, you had 2 timeouts, and they had the ball, and they were going to run it to run the clock. I mean, that's how this works.
yeah.
So you had enough time. You just had to get you had to stop them from getting a first down, and they didn't.
I mean, it just goes back to the idea that anytime that this team needs to get off the field defensively, they can't do it against an offense that is competent. Now, the good news is, well, good news and bad news. Bad news, 2 of the next 3 weeks, you're going to be playing a competent offense. The good news, I guess, if you want to really, like, spin zone this, your next home game, it might be an offense that's not competent against Oklahoma State.
Right.
JT Daniels and whoever Tech throws in at quarterback, though, I have zero confidence that they can get enough stops to win those games.
And
I have
by
zero,
the way, Tech goes for it on 4th down every time, too.
I have zero confidence that even if they are able to put those teams into, I thought one of the bigger plays today was the I think it was a hold that pushed Baylor back to 3rd and 20 there in the first half, or it might have been third quarter. And, finally you're able to get off the field. But you had to have a penalty. You had to rely on a penalty to get you off the field, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the rest of the season is just about trying to change this team's mentality.
And it's not going to change in the next 6 days or the next 12 days or the next.
But they need a spark. They need to see some type of spark. I mean, like they'll give up some points to West Virginia next week.
Yeah, and then if that happens, you just got to hope and trust that A, you don't turn the ball over, and B, you don't have enough penalties that put you back in really bad spots, because they are running the ball well. Like as much as you want to talk about, and rightfully so, that Baylor averaged 5.9 a carry. OU averaged what, 5.3? You can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric Gray was like 4.6 or something.
Eric Gray was he did everything today. He's one of those, like, he averaged 4.6 today. He's one of those guys too that it seems like he's not picking up a whole bunch of yards, at least for me, like looking through the viewfinder or the LCD screen on the camera, and then you look up and it's 2nd and 3. I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Well, he got 106 and his long was 17. Like, you can tell he's just 6, 7, 8. Like, he just, again, kind of like what I was talking about with Baylor, just nickel and diming you to death. Like, okay, we're going to be in. He just keeps putting you in 2nd and 4, or, taking 3rd and 5 and making it a first down. Like, he's just getting you what you need to put you in good offensive down and distances.
All right, well,
So this is what it's like covering a team that's 5 and 4.
we're learning.
Like, what? Liberty Bowl? Seriously, is that Liberty Bowl, Texas Bowl, that probably the best they can do right now? I think
Probably.
something like that. Maybe you can backdoor into I don't even know what the Bulls called out in Arizona. It's Camelback. I know that.
It's not the Cheez-Its anymore,
It's
because that's
Camelback.
Orlando.
It's the Camelback Bowl. That's the only thing that we have to live
What
for.
used to be the Insight Bowl.
But it just like
yeah, I don't know what
I
it is
mean,
anymore.
it is what it is. It's far from, even with realistic expectations, it's far from what anybody signed up for. It's borderline embarrassing. Not full embarrassing, just kind of borderline. You can't be just truly embarrassed by today. You kind of had to expect it, right?
With where they were following Texas, I think anything 7 and 5 or better.
Yeah.
You got to be like,
Yeah,
because after that Texas game, people would have taken 7 and 5 in a heartbeat.
We wondered if they could win a game.
Yep,
And obviously
100%.
they've been able to win games, and I they're not going to go 0-3 here over this final stretch. And I think for a lot of people, if they couldn't go 3-0, that'd be disappointing.
They could go 3-0.
They could.
100%.
But
They can.
and I think when the dust settles, if you're able to do that, and you look up at the end of the year and they're 8-4, as bad as this shit is right now, I think there's a lot of people that realistically would be able to live with that. But it's just how they've done it that is somewhat embarrassing, as far as you look back and there's just so many points in a game where you feel like they can take momentum, or they can build off of what they're doing on the defensive side and hand it over to the offensive side, or vice versa, and they're not able to capitalize. And I think that that's the most frustrating thing, is it's just like they don't learn from any of their mistakes in a way.
Well, guys, Carey talked about it early, and he's right. It's about keeping this class together. Like, that's the biggest priority right now. And, I know that the coaches would never say that, but that is your lifeblood. That's how you're going to get better, because there is some clear talent deficiency problems on this roster. There just are. So you get that class in, continue to try to build with 2024. And then I think we'll see a lot, because we'll see how much this staff grows. Because, guys, we all know, there are a lot of guys that are new to their roles, new to Oklahoma, new to some of these challenges that they're facing right now. I mean, even Brent Venables, as long as he's been a coach, he's rarely had a season like this, and he's literally never been a head coach before. So there's a lot he's going to learn from year one. To me, year two is where we're going to learn a lot, because at that point, you no longer have the fallback of if Dylan Gabriel gets hurt, there's nothing they can do offensively. You've got a premier young quarterback. Now, I get he can't run the full offense, but you're going to have someone you can put out there and you should be able to expect to run the basic ideas of your offense. And so a lot of the things that are crippling them this year, I'm not saying they all get fixed or they're all right next year, but you can make a step forward. And then you start moving and start building some momentum. But if you see the same stuff again next year, then some of these questions people are asking start to become valid. Like they start to become things. But I think it's way too early. Like, let's see where this goes. Let's see how the offseason goes. And I think, again, having those 15 practices in the winter. And guys, by this time next year, how much of that team is going to be left that really has that much connection to Lincoln Riley? Because we know there's going to be more portal guys. There's going to be a bunch of guys go, a bunch of guys come in, a big class coming in. Like, I would say 70% of that roster will be Brent Venables guys.
Just rapid reaction, and I know that you kind of hate this question, especially in the aftermath of a loss, but is loss number 4 different for you than 1, 2, or 3? As far as guys thinking about maybe rethinking their commitment?
I think it's much better than 2 or 3. I don't think anybody's looking at 4 and is like, I mean, that's not a jarring loss. Like, you're like, that's a good Baylor team. They were Big 12 champions last year. That's not like a shameful loss. Like, They made mistakes. It was there to be won. But as people that understand football, like, especially these players who, with the, notable on multiple levels exception of Colton Vosick, these guys all lose games. Like, they've all lost high school games, and they know, like, sometimes you just doesn't go your way, even if you play better or whatever. So I don't expect this to have any great impact. Now, it's interesting. Anthony Evans, I talked to him a little bit yesterday. He, as of yesterday afternoon, he was trying to get out in front of the weather to go to Georgia tonight and see that game, or today against Tennessee. Anthony just, I don't know. Like, I don't get that feeling that he's that serious about a flip. Now, he may go and love it. It changes everything. I don't know. But he's been very upfront about it in a lot of ways, both with OU and talking to me. Like, he doesn't send up red flags to me at this point. Now, I'll try to talk to him tomorrow and we'll know more. But again, I don't see anybody that this changes their course. Like, if Colton Vosick's going to flip, he's still going to flip. If he wasn't going to flip, I don't think it changes because of today.
Well, you'll have more feedback on that for this week. And
woo!
Yeah, we're going to let you celebrate now. You've done your due diligence. Your Houston Astros are world champions. I know how that feels, so Eddie does too.
Welcome. Not as good as the Cubs would have.
This is a
Well, I mean, this is
the
like,
non-tainted championship here for you.
Oh, here we go. I've technically, I mean, because my fandom has changed too many times, I've been through like 4 World Series. So,
yeah,
you
were a Marlins fan when we first met.
I mean, but yes. And again, let it be noted that I suffered many bad Marlins seasons for those 2 good ones. So, that's, I paid my dues and then finally got sick of being shit on by the ownership. So now just enjoying this Astros thing, which I did not intend to ever become an Astros fan. I fought it pretty hard, actually. So, but yeah. So all you haters out there, especially
I'm happy for Dusty Baker. I am happy for Dusty Baker.
Come on. Like, one of the game's truly good guy, like good dudes. Like,
I think he's been in professional baseball for 55 years, I think is what Dan Schulman said during – it was one of the games that we were driving up to Ames last week.
And I'm just going to say it before it gets announced. If Jeremy Pena is not World Series MVP, we riot. That dude
you think he
was
will be?
nails.
I bet he's not. They're not going to give it to a 20-year-old rookie. I mean,
They'll
he's been
probably give it to Jordan because of the 3-run home run or something, which will be bullshit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Heisman Trophy. It's kind of bullshit.
Yeah,
I do love that Dusty Dvorak is doing Lincoln Riley's game on TV right now.
Oh, is he really?
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that. 3,981 games spanning 4 decades. for Dusty Baker.
So not 55 years, but 40.
Well, as a
plus.
player too, because
Okay.
he won the World Series. As he was on the Dodgers team in 81, and then he was a
Okay.
player for
Yeah. however
however many years. So I don't know. It's back to square one for me though with this football team.
I will say this: it was about as somber as I've seen Brent Venables after a game tonight.
I wouldn't even say somber. I think he was pretty pissed off.
Yeah,
Like he was very short with his answers.
he was pissed.
He was pissed. I don't know any other way to say it. He was kind of mad, and rightfully so.
And again, for him to be that pissed off losing 38-35, it's a different thing than being pissed off losing 49-0. So, I mean, he's got to set that tone, and I think he's doing it the right way.
Well, and I think that there's also this element of, because he has been a part of such good defenses and because he is such a good defensive coach, it has to be frustrating when you tell somebody over and over and over again, like, hey, this is coming. Or, to feel like you are putting your team in the best possible position to win a game or to execute a play, and then repeatedly it just keeps happening where it just doesn't seem like that message is getting through.
And I think that's the importance of Brent Venables in that, he's a guy that, you see that, on TV they show it, like David Agwebu misses a block, or he gets, does something that doesn't, he gets beat on a play or doesn't make a tackle. Like, you see him in his face when he comes to the sideline, and he's teaching him. But also, Brent Venables is not the kind of guy, and there have been coaches in the past where players just tune them out and they just say, oh, he's just always on me. I think
he said it on.
He has a better temperament for reaching these guys than just pissing them off and, giving them to just tune him out.
I think he said it on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday's press conference when he was talking about how, they had kind of it might have been after the game actually up in Ames, when he was talking about, they had a heart-to-heart with the defense on Friday, basically saying, like, I know that you guys are not going to like me. Like, you shouldn't like me.
There are times you're going to hate me.
And it's kind of one of those things where you look back at some of the stuff that he says, like, during the week, and maybe we overlook it on Monday or Tuesday, in that, like, he's almost preparing you for what's about to come. Like, he knows what's about to come, and there's not much he can do about it. And hindsight's always 20/20. Like, obviously, like, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to get beat this week. But there are points where you look back on what he says, and it's like, shit, he told us. He told us. He told us that they were going to get run over.
Yeah. So, look, it's a loss. OU fans, I know you're pissed about it. You don't like it. You want certain changes to happen because that's what you do after every loss.
I don't even know if people are pissed, though. I think that's where, like, the apathetic
I'm just going
part
by my
comes in.
mentions during the game.
Yeah, but, like, when the dust settles, everybody goes, yeah, should have seen it. Should have seen that coming.
I really think the focus just has to be, is this team going to get better?
Yeah.
For fans, your question is, are we going to get better before this is over?
Not this year. They can get through these next 3 games and win these next 3 games.
I'm just saying win. Like, instead of losing 38-35, win 38-35.
But it is kind of empty, isn't it? Like, just as far as the feeling of, even if they win these next 3 games, nobody's going to feel better.
It's not empty because it's important. It's important
for
the culture of this program to start changing. Regardless
Carey,
of record or
Eddie,
win-loss.
you're the guy we're talking to. You've got to change your perspective, Eddie.
Yes. In all facets of life. I mean, you are losing weight. You look fantastic.
Lead your followers out of the dark.
Well, there's nothing to
lead
be let
people.
Out. There's nothing
we want
to
you
be
to
let
lead
out.
people, Eddie.
Drink the sauce tonight. Drink the sauce. It's over.
Oh, I'm already drinking the sauce. That brown water's been going for a while.
Oh my God. Your liver's going to be hurting tomorrow. Oh, your kidneys.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been rocking since about 10:30, 11 at the Houston Zoo, so it's we're having good times. A little White Claw to get the day going.
All right, well, we'll let you go celebrate, watch the post game. Congrats to your Astros. I'm gonna go get the pot up. Eddie's gonna drink some coffee and go home, I think.
Well, fellas, don't get to do it often, but did definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Got to make
Yeah,
it more
appreciate it,
frequent.
man. Awesome. Well, thanks to everybody out there for listening. We had one of our listeners come by with his wife today. I will say this. Our listeners have hot wives. Like, it's like universal. It's crazy.
Sad I missed it.
We kept you away from her on purpose. We didn't want to split up a marriage. The names are escaping now because it's getting late, and I've been up for a long time.
Well, you know who you are, and congrats on the hot wife, buddy.
Madison and Chris, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he loaded up on some merch, so that was good. He took home a Make Lindsay Street Great Again flag. Got him some unofficial 40 shirts, and he got a trucker hat, Eddie. And his wife told me women love trucker hats.
Must have been a pour. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We can laugh. We can joke. We can goof.
All right. Well, you just forfeited your cut of your Lindsay Street shirt, I think.
That.
All right. Well, thanks to Eskridge Lexus. They will not be taking us to West Virginia because we'll be flying to that one, but probably Lubbock. So they're our official travel partner. Go check them out, eskridgelexus.com. Proud supporters and partners with Soonerscoop.com. They said I could say that. I can't believe they even admitted like they're proud.
We love Eskridge.
All right, that's going to do it. We better get out of here. We'll see you next week after West Virginia for the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Pod, and be back again this week with another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast. So thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Deal with it how you got to deal with it. Just stay out of our mentions, all right, with at least the fire this guy, fire that guy. So we'll see you next week right back here on the Eskridge Lexus Postgame Podcast.